So this session, this Q&A session is getting live streamed on Facebook. Those who are watching through Facebook, you can join, you can answer through the Facebook comments, and those who are directly joined through the webinar, you can also participate in the commenting. So here's a little advertisement of my tutoring thing, because this thing is free, and free stuff comes with advertisement. That if you want to join in with the tutoring session that is currently ongoing, please send me a message to this email address. This session will also be uploaded in my YouTube channel, that is USMLE 121, and it will also be found in my Facebook page, USMLE 121. All right, so yesterday we discussed some question from biochemistry. If you haven't seen that question or seen that video, you can check it out in my page, USMLE 121, the only verified page of USMLE tutoring. Okay, so um, here's today's question. By the way, before going to the question, I'll give you 2 minutes, about 2 minutes. Try to answer the question within that 2 minutes. Those who are joining through the Facebook Live, you can also write it down in the comment section, whatever you think the answer is. And then I'll explain the question and why, also the other options. So here goes your question. You'll have 2 minutes time and try to answer it within that 2 minute period. One thing before going to the question, that try to read the question once. That means if you, in your real exam, it's the strategy to answer a question. If you take more time to answer a question, like if you take more time to read the question, it means that you were not reading it well and not focusing on the very first time. So try to read the question just once and try to answer the question just after reading. That means you need to be focused whenever you read a question. And another thing, try to start from the last line. That means what is the last line, or what is the ultimate question asking you, so you will not get biased or derailed. All right, so here goes your question, and your time starts now. I think it's been 2 minutes, right? So anyone wants to answer? Read the question and answer it. These are the very basic questions from the genetics. If you can understand that this is a question from genetics and the very basic topic, that was the very initial topics of genetics. So if you have read it, I think you can answer it. I can't see any answer. No one is interested to answer the question. Anything that comes to your mind? Your time is up. Okay, I got answer. That is C. Okay, at least one answer I got. All right, so let's go over the question now and describe the options. So the question says that uh, it's a 18-year-old male comes to you with the complaints of vision impairment. Okay, and on examination of the eye, it is found that the patient has loss of peripheral vision in one eye. All right, that's cool. 18-year-old and one eye vision loss. So it's kind of suspicious. Now, impairment of color vision. All right, so there's some problem with the retina, might be because we know that we have two types of cell, like rod and cones, and the cone cells are related to our color vision. Maybe there's some problem with the retina. All right, let's go on. After 2 weeks, the boy reported complete loss of vision in one eye. Okay. On further questioning, it is revealed that the boy's maternal uncle, okay, that's a clue, I think, maternal uncle, also has similar problem and lost the vision of both eyes acutely. Okay. Now it's a condition that is going on in the families. Okay, let's go and let's proceed. You suspected mitochondrially transmitted disease. All right, so that is your clue actually. That means the question is describing you what type of disease is it. So you need to have the idea about the mitochondrial disease to answer this question. Now, if different family members affected by the same genetic condition show different severity of symptoms, it will be called. So what this question is asking you, it's asking you about some genetic terms. That means, okay, I think I got an answer in the Facebook Live, that is heteroplasmy, Mr. Khan, Dr. Khan. Thank you very much for answering. And let's go. Let's see what is the answer. So the question is asking that if different family members affected by the same genetic condition show different severity of symptom, it will be called. So they're asking you about one important characteristic of this particular genetic disease. Now, this condition is mitochondrially inherited, so you need to have the idea about the mitochondrial diseases. Now, one important thing, if I ask you what is the most important thing of mitochondrially transmitted disease, you need to have this idea in your mind that mitochondria is transmitted from our mother to us. That means our mother are the donor of the mitochondria to us, the babies. That means all of us having mitochondria that came from our mother. So one thing you should keep in mind that if someone has a disease, let's say a mother, a girl has a disease, mitochondrial transmitted disease, that disease will go to all the offsprings because that mother, that girl, when she becomes a mother, she will transmit the mitochondria to his through her offsprings, and all of the offsprings will have the disease if that mitochondria is diseased. Now, the question is asking you some specific fact about that mitochondrially transmitted disease. The mitochondria, they're asking that if different members of that family has same problem, that means mitochondrially transmitted disease, but different severity, what it will be called. Now, in that case, you need to have idea about the genetic terms. At the very beginning of the genetic terms in your book, The First Aid, you might have found that there are some genetic terms, and that the USMLE somehow likes those genetic terms and like to ask questions from those particular topic. Now, there's two possibility that can happen here for this answer. One is this thing, the variable expressivity. That means different family members are expressing the disease differently. That's why they have different symptoms, although they might have the same genetic condition. Another thing is heteroplasmy. Actually, the answer would be heteroplasmy because for mitochondrially transmitted disease, if the severity is different in different family members, that particular phenomena is described by this particular uh, term that is called heteroplasmy. Now, why I said earlier that it can be variable expressivity, because in case of other transmitted conditions, that means other genetic conditions, not mitochondrially transmitted, it can be autosomally transmitted, it can be X-linked transmitted disease. For those other chromosomal abnormalities or chromosomal disease, which are also prominent or which may be found prominent in the family members, if there is difference in severity of the disease, then it would be called variable expressivity. But for only mitochondrially transmitted disease, this particular phenomena where we get different severity of disease in different family members, that is called heteroplasmy. So you need to have this concrete idea of that particular term, what that heteroplasmy means. Again, I'm repeating, if a family, let's say this family, this boy is having vision impairment and you found that that is mitochondrially transmitted disease, this boy's maternal uncle has also same type of problem. Now, it might happen that this boy is getting just one eye vision impairment. The maternal uncle had two eye visual impairment. So there is difference in severity. One is having one eye problem, another is having two eye problem. Now, what is this particular phenomena called? For mitochondrially transmitted disease, this difference in severity is called heteroplasmy. But if it is the other inheritance, other inherited diseases like autosomal inheritance or X-linked inheritance, it would be called variable expressivity. All right, thank you, Mr. Khan, for answering. You're correct. Now, what are the other terms that is described here? That allelic heterogeneity, what does it mean? It means, let's say you have a chromosome, and in that particular chromosome, there is a particular gene, right? And let's assume that this particular gene, we don't know what is this chromosome, or we don't know what this particular gene is, but let's assume that this gene codes for some enzyme, some important enzyme in your body. Now, if it happens that this gene has a point mutation, it can lead to certain enzyme deficiency. I mean, this enzyme, whatever, let's say this enzyme is X. Now, if there is point mutation in this gene, it can lead to enzyme deficiency of X enzyme deficiency. If there is missense mutation, it can lead to same X enzyme deficiency. If there is frame shift mutation, it can lead to X enzyme deficiency. So what is the idea here? Idea is, no matter what type of enzyme deficiency, sorry, no matter what type of mutation you have, same type of problem you are having. This is called allelic heterogeneity. That means different mutation, different types of mutation is happening in one allele or one gene, and that is causing the same problem. This is called allelic heterogeneity. Heterogeneity, allelic heterogeneity. Okay, I found one answer. Someone answered that this is anticipation. So you need to have the idea about the anticipation. This particular term describes or it applies for some particular diseases. And those diseases are called trinucleotide expansion diseases. Now, there are some diseases which are categorized as trinucleotide expression disease. What are the diseases? Huntington disease. The Huntington disease is a trinucleotide, right? Very good. Huntington disease is a trinucleotide expression disease. Expansion disease. Uh, any other example you have? Friedreich ataxia is a trinucleotide expansion disease. Like there are some other diseases like spinocerebellar atrophy and myotonic dystrophy. Very good. These are uh, trinucleotide expansion disease. What happens there? In those diseases, there are certain trinucleotides. Certain trinucleotides. What is trinucleotide? Three nucleotide. Simple. This three nucleotide. Let's say in Huntington disease, what happened? That there is three nucleotide in some particular gene of that patient. This three nucleotide, this CAG, continues to expand. This trinucleotide expands. Now, what is the expansion? There'll be a lot of CAG in that person's particular gene, more than normal. Maybe I have 10 copies of CAG. Maybe someone, it's a normal number. If it happens that someone has 300 copies of CAG, what does it mean? The trinucleotides are expanded. And that trinucleotide expansion causes some change in that genetic material that shuts off some protein from functioning that leads to this genetic condition. Now, on those particular disease where we get trinucleotide expansion, on those particular disease, you apply this term that is called anticipation. What is it? Anticipation is increased severity or abnormally early appearing of the disease in subsequent generation. Simply, if a father has the disease, if a father has the uh, Huntington disease, it might happen that the kid or the child of that father will have the Huntington disease earlier than the father had. Maybe the father had the disease at the age of 50, but the child or the boy or the boy of that father may have that disease at age of 40. Or maybe the father had a mild severity of that disease. The boy can have moderate or much more severe severity of that disease. Now, this particular phenomenon where the offsprings are getting the disease earlier and they're getting the disease in increased severity, that is called anticipation. All right. Heteroplasmy, we discussed. Mosaicism, what is mosaicism? In the same body, in the same body, our cells, we know that each of our cell has a particular chromosomal pattern. Now, that chromosomal pattern is usually in the men, it is 46XY. That means 22 pairs of autosome and 2 pairs of sex chromosome, X and Y. And in the female, it is 46XX. Now, if it happens that if you take out all the cells of a person, that is just for theoretical purpose, that if you take out all the cells of a person and if you arrange them in a sheet, let's say you are arranging the cells in a particular paper, now you'll see that some of the cell has one type of chromosomal pattern and some of the cell has different types of chromosomal pattern, and it looks like that there is some mosaic design of mosaic formation. Have you seen the mosaic that is used in the floor, that are made of some stones and some cements and they make a design? Same thing happens here. That means the body cells, different cells, has different chromosomal pattern. That is called the mosaicism. And now last thing is the dominant negative mutation. This thing happens that if one gene is mutated, let's say we have two copies of gene. Every gene we have has two copies. Now, some gene may have more copies, but most of the gene they have two copies. We know that our chromosomes, one of the chromosome we got from our father and another chromosome that we get from our mother. Let's say this is chromosome number 13 and this is from the father and this is from the mother. Now there is some particular gene here and there's some particular gene here. Now what this term describes that if this particular allele, this particular gene or allele is mutated, now, it might produce some abnormal protein that inhibit this other gene from expressing. So it's like that one is mutated, and this mutated gene produces some protein that is inhibiting the other gene from expressing. This is called dominant negative. It's, this mutation is so dominant and it's actually negative because it is inhibiting the other gene from expressing. All right, so that's it. Our today's discussion was about the mitochondrial transmitted disease. It's a question from the genetics. And again, if you haven't filled up the form, the feedback form, it is found in the Facebook Live comments from my page, USMLE 121. You can find a comment there. There's a Google form link. Please fill it out. It's for a feedback. I want to know what you are thinking about these sessions. And those who are joining through the webinar, if you have filled the form, don't fill it. But if you haven't, please fill the form. And after the webinar, you will have the link. That means after the webinar, there will be the maybe you will get it through email or maybe it will just open up by itself in your computer, a Google form. That's a feedback form. All right, so that's it. So I am not sure if I am taking the class tomorrow and the next day. That means Saturday and Sunday as weekends. Probably the next class will be on Monday. This Q&A daily dose session where I try to uh, tell you some questions and show you some questions which might help you get the ability to how to answer the question. All right. Do you have any question? Anyone? Thanks for participating and have a great weekend. See you on Monday. Goodbye.